Number 3 for 5 Lesson Friday. And don't forget, as always, remember to go along to getenglishtips.com and subscribe to 5 Lesson Friday. Totally free. You'll get it to your email. The benefit of hindsight is lesson number 3 for this 5 Lesson Friday. Benefit of hindsight. Really great expression. Very, very common for native speakers. The benefit of hindsight. What does it mean? If you don't know, well, the benefit of hindsight just means that something is easier to understand because it's already happened. And we can look back on it and give a judgment or an understanding. We can look back on it later on because we have more information and we have more experience. We now have the benefit of hindsight. We can look back. Hind just means the back. Okay, so hindsight, to look back. So if we can look back at something with experience and more knowledge and more information, that is the benefit of hindsight. I guess it's easier to evaluate a decision or a situation with the knowledge and experience that comes with time. Okay, so the benefit of hindsight, we look back on something and we have a better understanding because we have more experience, more information, and more knowledge. So let's put it into context. What examples can we use? In hindsight, I should have studied harder for the exam. I should have studied harder for the exam. This means that you realize that you should have worked harder or put more into the studying after you have taken your exam. Maybe you got a grade D, but you realize now with hindsight, if you had studied harder, you maybe would have received a grade B. Okay, so you've got more knowledge about the situation. I didn't study as hard as what I should have. With hindsight, I really should have studied harder. With more understanding of my result, makes sense to study harder. So with hindsight, I should have studied harder for that exam. Second example, with the benefit of hindsight, we can see that the investment into the company was a bad decision. With the benefit of hindsight, we can see that investing into that company was a bad decision. And this means that looking back on the investment, we now have more information, we now have more experience, but looking back, that investment was not a good decision. So, with the benefit of hindsight, I can see now it was a bad decision. We didn't have enough information, we didn't have enough experience for the investment to do what we thought it would do. With the benefit of hindsight. The last one, it's easy to criticize someone's decision with the benefit of hindsight. At the time, they didn't have all the information. It's easy to criticize someone's decision with the benefit of hindsight. At that time, they didn't have all the information. Now, this is a good example, and it just means that it's really easy to judge someone from the time now, but when the decision was made, they didn't have the information required to make a good decision. Okay, you have to remember that now is a different situation to back then, and back then they didn't have all the information. Now they have the information, and with the benefit of hindsight, they would have done things differently. So, with the benefit of hindsight, we look back with more experience, with more knowledge, and with more information. So that's the benefit of hindsight. The next lesson is going to tie into that. But in the meantime, if you have your example, go along to our Facebook group, getenglishtips.com, and leave your example, and I will check it for you. So, what other similar phrases or expressions are the same as with the benefit of hindsight? Well, great vocabulary here. We've got retrospectively and in retrospect, and these two expressions, and vocab also refer to looking back on something with more information and with more experience. In retrospect, I should have studied harder. In retrospect, I shouldn't have invested into the company. The main difference is, with the benefit of hindsight, really emphasizes that the additional knowledge makes it easier to evaluate that decision back there. So, if you want to really stress that you now have more knowledge or more experience, the benefit of hindsight, looking back, the situation might have been different. So there we go. The benefit of hindsight. As I mentioned, let's see if you can make your own example. Always good to practice your English skills, right? Let's see if you can make your own examples and you can really elevate your English with the benefit of hindsight. The next lesson coming up is the opposite of this. So let's tune in for that.